Siren sounds in the background. South Sydney have notched up win number 6 for the year with a comprehensive 26 points to 4 display against the Newcastle Knights. 4 tries to 1. They did it in fine style.
And your halves, Tricky, I thought was exceptional last week. That sort of latitude's going to be allowed for him tonight?
Well, you know, if our forwards do the job I expect him to do, Trindall's going to have plenty of room to do something. And yeah, he's been outstanding, 3 weeks in a row for me. So, he's keen and he's looking forward to playing.
What I remember about Trick, Trick was probably one of my footy idols growing up.
And that's Trindall. Trindall, I think it is in 44. It is indeed, and they haven't relaxed, Paul.
I used to love watching him play out in the field, and he'd always do something tricky in the game. That's pretty much why he got his nickname, and he'd always do something special that would be a highlight of the game, where you look back and just think, oh man, that was amazing, that play.
Needs to get a real good kick in. Stepped inside McClendon. Great kick into the end goal, beautifully weighted.
He's Indigenous too, so it was great to look up to him and watch him play.
Jensen goes back, Trindall is there to stop him. Oh, what a pass, Jensen through to Vegas. Trindall made another tackle that almost kept the fullback in the end goal.
He's one of the best players in the South club back in them times too.
He scores it for the corner, bumps it back on the inside to now Trindall. Can he get his second try? You bet your life he can. The Rabbitohs head back.
South's President George Piggins intends to continue his fight against the NRL and News Limited.
And then you subpoena them, and then you get them to open the books and you see who's been fair dinkum.
One of the most famous clubs of all, South Sydney. 20 premierships in a battle for survival.
We're not going to go away. We're going to ride the storm and we're together.
There it is. Trindall, he adds another one to the extras. 23-4 now, South Sydney in front. Well and truly out of danger with 6 to go.
Trick's pretty much a family friend too. I grew up around the same area as Tricky as well. Alexandria area. Tricky grew up around that area too, so I've known Tricky since I was a young kid as well. So pretty much him and Tugger the same, family friends.
Trindall with the field goal. He drilled it, and he is turning it on.
He was having a blinder of a year that year. South were on track.
We were in good form. I think we'd won a certain number of games and we were in good shape leading up to that.
A couple of young guns coming through with a couple of old heads, Tricky steering them around, and that was one of them years where it could have been something special, because when Tricky was on the side with the boys, he always made something happen. So yeah, that was pretty sad to see the way it ended up.
End of the year. Shields, quick hands for McDougall. The crowd thought it was forward. Offload. Tahu.
It was a bit of a nothing. I guess that was a flaw in Tricky's defensive style. He used to go up and try and hook the shoulder and come in contact with the neck every now and then, but it was a bit of a nothing tackle. I couldn't see 7 weeks in it, but yes, there was all the conspiracy theories out there. And mind you, a lot of them are quite believable.
We were buzzing with anticipation. I mean, everybody had a scenario. There was conspiracy theories, and that the NRL or the hierarchy didn't want them in, and they wanted them out. They were too much of a problem child. There was too many issues. It seemed as if Souths was fighting the entire world at that time. I'm not sure that was quite right, but there was a perception that the whole world was against him.
For Tricky to get 7 or 8 weeks, whatever he got for a careless high tackle like it was, nobody got injured and there wasn't a jaw broke or anything like that. I mean, you compare it to now, it's 1 or 2 weeks. And it was hard not to believe it was a conspiracy, because the NRL had an agenda. They had News Limited said we need to get to 14 teams.
It wasn't worth 7 weeks. It wasn't worth 7 games. And was that those guys trying to give it to us? You'd hate to think so, but it wasn't worth seven games. I do remember that. It was a week or 2 max, and he was a critical player in our team. Tricky Trindall was a very, very good player. Unbelievable, could spot and do Amazing stuff. Do I think that was a conspiracy? I don't know whether I'd go that far, but I'd definitely say it wasn't worth 7 weeks. Like maybe 2, maybe 3 at best. But yeah, we lost a great player for a large part of the season.
So they have Ricky Stewart put them there. Here he goes. Long range shot. That's 45. Oh, it goes over.
It hit the crossbar.
Oh. It's one of the longest field goal shots you'll ever see successful.
A draw would have been fine, but a loss isn't. Unbelievable.
Tricky getting suspended the way he did was it was like a nail in the coffin. You know, it was like, oh, hang on, what more can these guys do to us? You know, taking your halfback out of a team is like taking the keys out of a car. You know, he ran the team around the park. You know, he was electric on his feet. You know, he was confident. He was probably the longest serving Rabbitoh in the team. You know, so he meant a whole lot more than just what he did on the field. And so it was a massive blow. We still look back and, you know, we can come up with excuses, but, you know, it certainly contributed to us not finishing the way we did. And we'll look back on that and be disappointed forever.
Still fired up. He doesn't find touch. Well, unforgivable.
Missed it.
Not so well, Craig Wing. They've got to go the length of the park within 10 seconds.
Who's going to sort this mess out? For Smith. Good ball. Carolina will reach out. He doesn't get there. He's taken the corner post. He goes into touch.
Towards middle of the year, they started ramping it up. You know, the papers and the media, and you're not going to be here. So it was really hard because the play, we didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew. We could see what was going to go on. You know, like they're saying we don't meet the criteria. You know, Redfern Oval, you know, we're at the stadium, but and all these other grounds, they're still playing at Leichhardt. You know, like, they're still playing at Cogra. They're still playing at Shark Park. You know what I mean? All these places that this so-called criteria. You know what I mean? And but the criteria was made, I think, to try and get us out. We weren't playing on a level playing field. We were earmarked, and we were going.
There was constant talk of it, and after every game, media, they were talking about it quite a lot. Yeah, it really did feel like we had our backs against the wall, and even in a number of games, it just felt like the referees were always against us. But over the course of my career, looking back in hindsight, generally, the referees are against the team that are lower ranked, and that was always us.
A couple of 50-50 calls went against us, and we weren't allowed to play the ball too quick, so you know that went against us a bit. But mate, that was our second tonight, and but our guys done their best.
I do remember that Tricky getting suspended for those weeks on end really put us in all sorts.
They just wanted to try and break News Limited by getting into the semi-finals, and we nearly done that.
I probably would have made the semis if Tricky never got suspended.
With what was going on in the background off the field, it was doubly disappointing. We realised that success on the field would have really given us a much better chance to be included in the competition, and so we really felt down and felt a bit ripped off.
6 to go. And there's a play. Sean Garlick's rights and lets go in. Terry Hill's involved. We're not here for a debate. You've thrown the first punch. The penalty's against you. Well, Garlick pays the price.
We can't be sure if this is the last time we'll see the famous red and green go round, but with Big Mark Carroll and his captain retiring, it's certainly the last time we'll have Spud and Garlick together.
I remember the last game, Parramatta Stadium. I said to the players, I don't know what's going to happen after this, but I think we won't be around.
The courageous skipper of South Sydney playing his final game in those famous colours. McNicholas running wider, wants to get the arms free, always looks for the offload. Carroll just keeps on lining up.
They have got South Sydney on the back foot.
They are simply sitting ducks.
We nearly stuffed the league's little party up because we nearly fell into 8th spot, but we just run out of troops towards the end.
Passes Craig Wing and goes to McNicholas, and the big fella's made 3 good busts.
I was playing second row, and I was off and on, as you did back then with the unlimited interchange, and I think Peter Clark got injured. He was in the centre, and I think they moved the winger into the centre, and we had no one else on the bench apart from me, and I actually went on the wing, and I was up against Eric Growth Jr., which was interesting. So I played wing in first grade, which was wasn't the easiest thing coming up against him because he was a good player.
O'Neill drops it onto the right boot. Craig Wing will score. That should be play on.
With all the turmoil, there was excuses not to turn up and give you 100%, which comes more often than not with teams that don't have the most professional outfits and don't have the biggest budgets and don't have the most things at their disposal. But like for what we had, I mean, we're still training here. For what we had, I think we did pretty well.
After a long career, it now comes down to 40 minutes for Sean Garlick.
I still look back, and out of my whole career, despite what happened in '99, despite the disappointment, it was still my favourite year. It was still my most enjoyable year. The players that we had, the camaraderie we had, and we were really building something. And that was the great shame, is that we were building a great team in '99 and we're really coming together. Yeah, Tricky got suspended, but had we have been there in 2000, we would have gone to another level.
We just missed out on the top 8 that year, and I still say if we were in the comp, if we were going to be in the comp the year after, we would have made the top 8 that year for sure.
Trindall, Lee Hookie, very strong. He has split a miracle ball. Lee Hookie, where'd that come from? That's what Parramatta's asking. Craig Wing involved. Wing will stroll over. His second try of the game for Craig Wing. 34 points to 14. Wing bags a double.
That final year, I really do feel like guys put in, and I really do feel like we were playing for something bigger than ourselves. And for any sporting team, if you can get the mindset that the team is bigger than yourselves, you're playing for a higher cause, the things that you're able to achieve are so much higher, and it's really, for any team sport, that's the best feeling to be a part of.
The final play of the year for South Sydney. It's all over here at Parramatta Stadium. 34 points to 16. Parramatta have scored 6 tries to 3.
It was all surreal at the end of the game because we just knew that was the end.
They were devastated, but they're not silly. There's some quite intelligent people amongst them, and you never needed to be that intelligent to know what was going to go on. Because you were reading about it nearly every day. Nearly every day, but towards the end there, they were ramping it up. It was just in your face sort of stuff. So trying to prepare you for it, trying to prepare the fans.
Well, it wasn't what you'd normally call a Mad Monday. When a club that all you ever wanted to do was play for comes to an end, and unfairly so, it's not a great time, and it wasn't a good time. And a lot of the players that we had in that side, unfortunately, that was their last game.
And a lot of players bowing out in this final round, and again the emotion swells up for Mark Carroll. Sean Garlick also bowing out today, the club captain for South Sydney. It's all hitting home now.
Sean Garlick there with Mark Carroll. A tough time that is, knowing that's your last time you'll run out at this level, probably forever, and you're in your early 20s, you think you're going to be there forever.
They were a great bunch of guys too, who give their all for me, and for South Sydney.
There they are, Don Lane, Andrew Denton there, a couple of champions. Going to fight the battle with South Sydney dumped out of the competition there, that's how they say. They're going to march along the streets there.
The simple fact that nobody was prepared to come out and say that's South's last game says to me that there's hesitation in the eyes of the enemy. They're blinking.
It's like you're poking the bear, and you poke us hard and long enough, and we're going to strike back, and you will regret it.
The small end of town is going to march to the big end of town to ask for what's been taken back.
Thank you for coming. Stay strong, be smart, and please welcome the President of South Sydney, Mr. George Piggins.
took us out of the competition for the year 2000.
In true South Sydney form, there were a lot of very loud profanities. You know, George sort of, right, they want to kick us out of the comp.
You can see with George, as in the football field, that if someone hit him with a left and a right, George would say, is that all you've got? Bring it on.
Significant South people were saying, oh, who's this cowboy that George has got to fight this fight for us?
And they all turned to me and said, run with it. The club was my client, but so was every South Sydney supporter in the country or in the world.
When you're doing something that makes grown men cry, perhaps you should think again about what it is you're doing.
It was the little man, the working class man who'd always been trodden on, who was fighting the big corporate.
We're going to have a rally this Sunday. On Sunday we're going to come.
The small end of town is going to march to the big end of town to ask for what's been taken back. Look around you.
Wow, we've got a good thing going here.
This cause is right.
But they had a problem in that a number of us had regular access to the media. We were the media.
The newspapers didn't want to tell that story. Certainly the Murdoch newspapers didn't want to tell the story.
It certainly was blood soul.
We'll fight you, we'll take us to court.
We were all plunging into darkness. We had no idea where this was going to take us.